It's Canada Now on Sirius XM, Canada Talks, Channel 167. I'm Jeff Sammut. Let's have our weekly look into the future with award-winning futurist, researcher, and keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton on Canada Now. And Nick, this week, as you have on nicholasbadminton.com, we look into freedom or lack thereof when tech companies and large organizations are involved.
Yeah, absolutely. We live in a world where we talk about freedom and democracy, and some great philosophers say that if we have to continually talk about it, it doesn't truly exist. And that's very much the world that we live in, with all these big tech companies providing services to us.
Now, take us back to the 18th century, because it was even then that people had the feeling that they were always being watched. That seems to be around the time that it was introduced.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a very well-known English philosopher and social theorist called Jeremy Bentham. In the 18th century, he was looking at the prison system and how best to have institutional control over the inmates. So he designed something called the Panopticon. And the Panopticon was this big circular building where you'd have all the cells around the outside, and you'd have a tower in the middle where like 2 or 3 guards could literally look after hundreds of prisoners. And the effect of that design was the prisoners at any point in time felt that they were being watched, even though those 3 people couldn't actually watch them. But that design of control and the fact that there was always that looming, oversight really made them fall into line and actually behave themselves. And it's interesting to think about that and where we are today, because we've got this oversight by all of the technology and sensors and social media platforms, email and whatever. So we're sort of falling into line of a behavior online that was very much found within those inmates in the 18th century.
But have we done that to ourselves?
Well, you know what? We've chosen to be part of those systems. Have we, we as consumers, have we designed it that way? No. Have we fallen into line of the algorithms of the platforms? Absolutely. It's because we want convenience. So, 2019, 2020, it's the age of convenience. We want things to be easy. We want to be connected. And that convenience is free. But it's paid for with our data, and the oversight is ultimate corporate surveillance.
Well, I think it's important to, as we look ahead, to look back, which is often what we do, which is what you've done on nicholasbadminton.com, in looking at, the evolution of the computer. Like you've looked into it 50 years now, and how far we've come.
Yeah, absolutely. So 1968, a guy called Douglas Engelbart in Stanford came up with the world's first personal computer. No one imagined that, like today, there'd be about 6 billion people in the world with smartphones in their pockets, right? Mm-hmm. So we've come a long, long way. Computing is ubiquitous. And with that ubiquity comes applications and platforms, and it's powering the new world. Data is the new oil. The most powerful companies in the world are driven by data. Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft. These companies have got a joint market cap of about $4.5 trillion, right? There's power there. The power shift has happened. And now we're in this world where ultimately we are the product. We're part of the system, and ultimately, surveillance is being, pushed on top of us. And it's very difficult to step out of that world if we want to get anything done in our daily lives. So
data being the new oil, and you mentioned 6 billion smartphones in the world right now. In terms of data, where are we going to be in 2025 compared to where we are right now?
So they say that data is going to grow and grow and grow exponentially over time. So we're about 4.4, 4.5 zettabytes of data. And by the end of 2025, we'll be at about 168 zettabytes of data being created every year. That's the equivalent to a billion high-definition movies. We're not even going to be able to use all of it. It's just going to be created with, self-driving cars and sensors and our cell phones and the businesses and infrastructure. That's where we're going to. 5G is going to be part of that backbone. The systems are going to be part of that backbone. And you know what? There's going to be companies that are making more money than ever before based on what we're doing in the world and the data that we bleed on a daily basis.
Well, so let's focus in on one of those things you mentioned in self-driving cars. How close are we to replacing car ownership with hiring self-driving cars?
Yeah, so there's a big debate about how quickly this is coming, and when it's really going to be ubiquitous. You know what? We're going to see between 2025 and 2030, it's going to start to gain pace. I actually think by the year 2040, we're actually going to be living in a world where there's a lot of self-driving vehicles. By about 2025, 2028, we'll see that, trucking and ships that are taking cargo from port to port, taxis, those kinds of things are going to be autonomous, and they're going to be on demand. So we already use like ride-hailing apps or whatever. Those cars are going to be autonomous. And companies like Uber and Ford and Chrysler and whoever else are actually looking at that. Waymo is Google's self-driving car division. It's got an estimated value of about $175 billion. So there's a lot of money behind this. There's a lot of hope. But to have everyone in the world just using these services, we're really looking at a lot further. 2040, we're going to be living in a world where not many people choose to drive at all or even own vehicles.
2040, because, I bought a new car this year, and it's the first time I've bought a brand new car, like drive it off the lot. No one's ever used it. I'm the only owner. That's the first time I've ever bought a new car. And it dawned on me not that long after that while that was the first time, that's probably going to be the last time. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's fair. I did the same last year. I bought an electric car last year, and I drove it off the lot, and it literally will be the last car that I own. The next car that I own will actually just be a subscription via an application. I'll probably pay $300 or $400 a month, and I'll just have on-demand self-driving vehicles. And I'll be one of the first to get into that game. And those services are going to be available from the automotive manufacturers as well as people like Lyft and Uber and whoever. And they're going to be available and at scale in larger cities by about 2025, I think. So I think that's where we're headed towards. I mean, when I speak to the automotive industry, when I chat to these audiences and I say, put your hands up if you enjoy driving, and half the people put their hands up, and it's like, well, that's a lie that's been told to you by the advertising community. You don't love driving. You love getting from A to B conveniently. You love the views out the window. It's even better when you don't actually need to drive and you can use that time more wisely. And they argue against me, but really, the kids that are born today and the people that are going to be adults in the next 5 to 10 years, they don't want to drive vehicles. It's going to seem silly by 2040 that we ever did drive vehicles or we ever learned to drive.
When you do speak to those in the auto industry, I'm curious, how they're feeling really. Do they feel like they're in a dying industry, or are they optimistic about the changes that are coming?
You know what? I actually chat to companies like Ford and Chrysler all the time, and GM. And no, they believe that the industry is changing. It's inevitable. There'll actually be an industry where transportation is a platform and it's provided to people and it's going to be on demand. And that's the world that they're preparing for. They know that the world of selling vehicles is coming to an end. So, there's a lot of companies like Toyota and other people that didn't invest in electric or didn't invest in self-driving cars or whatever, that are now, just within 3 to 5 years, sort of egg on their face, having to stand up, admit that they're wrong, and they've got to step up their game and get into that new world. Whereas you've got other companies like Waymo from Google or whatever that are pioneering that. So there's a huge change of power in self-driving vehicles and transportation as a whole.
See, I think because the auto industry has had to admit that they're wrong, I fear that they would have fallen behind. By the time we get to a time where, we tap on an app, we hire a self-driving car that pulls up in front of our house. Through the app, the car already knows where we're going to go. It recognizes us by us using the app to get into the vehicle. As soon as we get into the vehicle, we sit down, the doors are locked, the car proceeds to our destination, and that car becomes our home office. because I feel the auto industry has been behind to this point. I feel like the hackers or the bad guys or whatever are going to be so beyond where the auto industry is that like they're going to be on top of hacking those cars and trapping customers into taking money from them, getting them to saying, hey, we're not opening the doors until you wire X amount of dollars to this account, and when that happens, we'll let you out of the car. Do you have the same fear?
I've always got fear about cybersecurity, hackers, people that are bad actors trying to play the systems. If we look at the banking system, it would scare us all if the banks told us how many times a day that they were getting hacked. Individuals these days are being hacked, or through programs and machine learning more today than they ever have before. So when we look at the platforms provided by the car providers, they are being built with levels of security that we've never really seen before. If you've got a kid in school today and they're technically minded and they want to have a great career, go into data science, go into cybersecurity, because it's going to be some of the biggest growth industries in technology of the next 20 years, because we're going to have ubiquity of systems. We're going to have the cloud. We're going to have 5G. We're going to have networks. And we're going to have people trying to exploit that for sure. Am I scared about it? It's an inevitable fact of life. Am I prepared for it? Well, that's what I try and do every single day.
Well, that's what you try to do. I mean, you're privy to a lot of information that perhaps you just don't want to have. Because I don't know if you told me this or if I read one of your blogs that said, I know too much. Like, I have just found out information that I do not want to have, and it's it can be terrifying.
Yeah, it can be terrifying. You just have to, you just have to really sort of be calm and meditative and really understand that if you're playing in the world and you've got connected systems and they're part of your life, you need to have a huge responsibility about making them secure. You also have to have a huge amount of trust to the service providers that they're going to do a good job. And sometimes there's some slip-ups and there's some problems, and most of the time life's okay. So it's one of those things. It's like if you're in the game, you got to be part of the team, right? That plays for the good guys. You've also got to address the bad guys as they pop up as well.
Okay, so let's talk more about surveillance and how we see it, at least today. You believe Amazon Alexa is one of the most pervasive and world-changing technologies, and that might not be a good thing at this point.
Yeah, so, aside from Alexa, anything that's got a microphone and anything that's got a camera can be incredibly pervasive and can be incredibly powerful to people that want to monitor what we're doing. You'd assume that large companies like Amazon with Alexa and Google and Apple and whatever would have responsibility around how they use, access to their consumers in a responsible way. We've got governments that are operating satellites that have got high-definition cameras and can literally spot an individual on the street. We've got people in China that are employed by the government, that old women in China on the streets that are employed by the government to basically snitch on people that they see doing wrong on the streets. We're wearing smartwatches. We've got cell phones in our pockets. So we're sort of surrounded. All of this is something that we just need to understand that, if we step into the game and we want to have these devices, we're going to be followed and we're going to be watched. I think that what we need now is these device providers to basically give us an absolute control as a consumer to opt out of any form of tracking, any form of surveillance, any form of storing data. And if there is data, we've got full transparency and we've got full control on what happens to that. And we're not quite there yet.
Well, we want our privacy, yet privacy policies are so frickin' long, Nick. We just agree to them so we don't have to read them. So who is going to stand up for policy in a world of tech that we have created around us?
It's government. It's government and, offices around government offices around information security and privacy that are really stepping up. These large companies have very complicated agreements around privacy so that they're protected from any eventuality. They also are written in such a way that's difficult to read. It takes about 17 hours to read the Amazon terms and conditions end to end out loud. So it takes a huge amount of time. No one really reads these, so we're all inherently trusting that they're going to serve us correctly, but ultimately they serve the large corporations. Now, there are some companies that are starting to say, you know what, we're going to write very short privacy terms and conditions around the services that we provide in plain English so that you can understand it, and we'll tell you at any point in time when they change and you've got the opportunity to easily leave using our service. But they are in the minority, less than 0.01% of all the systems out there in the world.
So do you think that we can get to a point where these companies are asking us for our data that does belong to us, heck, maybe even paying us if we want to give up information? Yeah,
there's a huge amount of research that people are doing around micropayments and microtransactions. So, we might undertake a certain activity in email. And from that email, we may be approached by our email provider and they say, we see that in this 4-hour period, you had interesting conversations about these particular subjects. We've got clients that are interested in that. You won't be identifiable. It will literally be some sentiment analysis and keywords. And you know what? We can sell that data for you. You would get $10 for that transaction. We would get $3 for that transaction. Would you like to go ahead with that? And you'd click yes or no, right? And you can opt out absolutely from the get-go. And that new world of microtransactions is something that people are trying to crack. I actually think that it's something that could become a reality. I think that it's going to be difficult to see that coming from, the big companies like Facebook and Google and Amazon and even Apple as well. But, some of these smaller services that are going to sort of blaze the way forward are going to start offering, clarity and empowerment of the user.
Tell us about the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Yeah, so every year I donate to them, and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, they believe that digital rights are human rights. So they've been around since pretty much the beginning of the internet. And what they've been doing is they've been representing the users of the internet and how they have senses of freedom and access to information on that internet. So the EFF is an incredible organization to get behind. Check out their website and go and check out what they're all about, because really they're all about protecting us and empowering us with information, but also they take action in lobbying government, certainly in the U.S., to make some changes to how, privacy regulations, policy, and the such like are operating. Mm. And really, they're not-for-profit. They defend digital privacy, free speech, and innovation. And there's not enough people in the world doing that.
Well, maybe there will be as they become more well-known. Check out NikolasBadminton.com. Futurist researcher, keynote speaker, Nikolas Badminton. Nick, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Jeff. Always a pleasure.
All right, Nick. Thank you.